So, yeah, this is like unofficial thingy. Feel free to interrupt, to talk. Okay. There's in the beginning, I have slides, I have a structure, but then like halfway through, when it gets really interesting, it just all falls apart, kind of thing, and it will just be random. So yeah, feel free to interrupt as much as you want. Then let me share my screen.
Should I do the intro? Study's just going to be easy.
Forget the intro.
My bad. Welcome to the Spark session number 19, titled "What is NEOM as a region, as a name, and as an economy?" presented by Yoosuf Hannan. As usual, we'll have the presentation that is very involved with everyone, apparently. And then we'll do feedback and questions at the end. Yoosuf.
Thanks, mate.
The floor is yours.
So, there are more people alive today than have ever died, is what I would have liked to have started with, but it's not true. But the point is, there's a lot of people alive in the world today, and over 50% of them live in cities. And if you dig deeper, if you look at high-income countries, that's across Western Europe, Japan, Middle East, North America, that's over 80% live in cities. But our cities of today have big problems, and problems that are only getting bigger with time. We have issues such as urban sprawl, overcrowding, informal settlements and slums, inequality in terms of access to services. So, for example, transport gets worse the further you are from the city centre, no waste disposal, and the list goes on. And in fact, if you're like a so-called developing country, not only are the problems you face bigger, but there's actually more problems that you face that developed countries don't face as much. And so, that being said, we end up at a question of what does a city of the future look like? First, we can flip the question and we can say, what does a city of the future not look like? And we know for a fact that a city of the future does not look like a city that we already have today. Which brings us to, oh, wait, I was going to say, in summary, we have today, we have big cities, but we have even bigger problems. In the end, this brings us to NEOM. So NEOM, there's the vision statement of NEOM is the land of the future where the greatest minds and best talents are empowered to embody pioneering ideas and exceed boundaries in a world inspired by imagination. And actually, I included this. I mean, right now it has like no effect probably, but every time I would look into NEOM, I would look into a certain part, all right, and I'll dig down into detail. I would see all the layers to it, and I would see all the different people working on it, and I would see how likely it is to actually be achieved. And then I come back and I read the vision statement, and I actually get like excited. So the purpose of this presentation is not going to make you an expert on NEOM, not even close, but simply I'm trying to expose some of the layers and some of the layers of like complexity to NEOM. You know, it's like when you give or when you have a really fancy chocolate, people talk about like all the layers to this chocolate. But first you have to be aware of the layers' existence to then be able to appreciate them, right? That's why you don't give fancy chocolate to a kid. In other words, I'm getting you past the peak of Mount Stupid.
Oh, I thought that was because they were expensive.
Sure, but if you're rich, you still wouldn't. Well, I wouldn't anyway. So if we get to the first part, which is what is NEOM as a name? So the word NEOM is split. Does anyone know, first of all, actually what NEOM stands for as a name? There's a hint here. It's split into two. There's Neo and there's M. Any guesses?
Metropolis.
Okay.
Is that what the M stands for?
Kind of like Neo from the Matrix.
I don't know what that means.
Just some famous movie reference that almost everyone knows now.
Well, it's probably from 20 years ago.
It actually is.
Okay, so neo is some ancient Greek prefix meaning new, and M is short for the word mustaqbal, meaning future in Arabic. So NEOM is quite literally the new future. But there's a bit more of a story behind the name. I'm going to tell you the story. They have the board of directors back in the really early stages of NEOM. You had the board of directors. Just gonna ignore the comment once again. This is my work laptop. You had the board of directors in the early stage, and it was obviously chaired by the crown prince, right? And so they went through a process to come up with a name. And so I think they were using like consultants or teams. They set out some guidelines, some standards, some criteria, and they came up with a list of 2,000 names. All right. Eventually, they went through each of them and they shrunk down that list to 150 names. They went through that list again. They shrunk it down to 5 names. From those 5 names, 0 were chosen. So then they there was a half of the board of directors, and they went back to this original idea this group had, and it was that the name should be either directly or indirectly have the crown prince's name in it. So they came up with 2 suggestions. They had Neovia MBS and NMBS. You can see the Neo part at this point was like already decided on. I mean, these names suck, so I'm glad I didn't pick them. So the other half of the board of directors, they disagreed. All right, they said that just the fact that the crown prince is the chairman of NEOM, chairman of the board of directors, and that he already leads so many other huge projects, within the country, is enough to show that he's connected to it, right? So there's no need to put his name like right into the name. So then, but the whole board of directors, they agreed with the principal idea of the crown prince, which was that the name they come up with should be neither Eastern nor Western, and it shouldn't be attributed to any specific language or culture. So it should be quite open, open to the world. So then they went back altogether back to the drawing board, and they started looking at the sectors of NEOM, or the economies of NEOM, which we'll kind of talk about later. And they took all the first letters of some of the sectors and they abbreviated it into a word. And they came to the word mustaqbal, spelled like this, where you had, and each letter represented a certain sector. So I've included some here. You see media, sport, tech, construction, livability, and energy. So then they took just the first letter of this mustaqbal and attached it to Neo, and they got NEOM. So now this M represents 3 things. It represents mustaqbal, meaning the future. It represents mustaqbal, meaning these sectors. And it also can represent the first name of the crown prince, Hamad bin Salman. So that's the story of how they arrived at the name NEOM. And I thought it was pretty interesting to see how much detail there is in even just the simplest part about NEOM. So just imagine how much detail there is in the complex parts about NEOM. So then we move on to NEOM as a region. And so when I talk about region and as an economy, this is where it gets mashed up, mixed up, and the presentation kind of just gets jumbled. But here as a region, we're going to look at this. I'm going to talk about this picture for a bit, and then we're actually going to go into Google Maps. And we're just going to look around the map for a little while, and then we'll talk about some other stuff. So here, this is NEOM is in the northwest of Saudi. It's 2,600 square kilometers, and I'll show you just how big that really is on the map. And it's, as you can see here, it's split. It's made up of 4 different terrains. So you have marine landscapes in this left side, and you have lower desert, then you have mountains, then you have upper valley. Each of these terrains, they have different wildlife. Obviously, different terrain. So this lower desert part is, the upper valley part is the part where you have this really red sand, for example. And you can see also the regions. Was Shosha, well,
Wow.
hey, when you're done eating, you can contribute. So you can see the regions here. We have Sindela, which are these island resorts. You have Trojena, which is in the mountains, the peaks of the mountains. And this is, so to me, there's the three that really stand out to me are Trojena, the Line, and Oxygen, right? Because I think they're the ones that are really reshaping something. Whereas the other ones, they're just like resorts and stuff, which are a bit less exciting. So then we'll talk about them a bit more later, right? At some point, maybe. Then we have the Line, then we have Oxygen. Also, two new locations that were announced within the last month. So one 2 weeks ago and one month ago is Leisure and Epicon, which are both on the Gulf of Aqaba, so on the left here. They're luxury resorts. Trojena up in the mountains, and reason why I find it interesting, even though it is just like another resort thing, is actually it is what it's redefining is kind of Saudi Arabia, because no one from the outside world really understands that Saudi has snow. Okay, but now all of a sudden it's going to have so much snow, and it's going to have the infrastructure for people to come and go skiing, which is going to completely like change the image, I think. And exactly, and it's going to host the Winter Olympics in like 2029, I think. Then you have the Line, which technically is meant to be the point of this whole presentation, but then there was like so much else that I just had to talk about, so it's not going to be the whole point of the presentation. But we'll talk about that more in detail later. Then we have Oxygen. Oxygen. Oxygen is an industrial city, but once again is redefining what it means to be an industrial city. Is one that is going to be smart and it's going to be carbon neutral, right? And so 13% of the global world trade passes through the Suez Canal, which is to the left of this peninsula. And Oxygen here is basically trying to capitalize on that. Also, NEOM. So trade is a big part of it. NEOM is at the connecting point between 3 continents. You have Asia, Africa, and Europe. 40% of the world is within a 6-hour flight of NEOM, and an additional 30% is within an 8-hour flight of NEOM. So it is very, very, very central. It's also going to be cooler than the rest of the Gulf. Oh yes, the really, 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 really cool part is that 95% of NEOM, 95% of this region is a nature reserve. Including sea, including land, 95% is a nature reserve. And that means only 5%, so all these places, Sindela, Oxygen, the Line, Trojena, Epicon, Leda, which is 6 by the way, and there's meant to be 10, so 4 still yet to be announced. All of these regions encompass only 5% of NEOM in terms of land. And if you do 5% of 2,600 square kilometers, you get like about 1,500 square kilometers, which is the size of Riyadh, which is really small once you see how big NEOM is. Remember, I'm gonna go to the map. Okay, just relax. Let's see. Also, Oxygen is gonna be like, it's a huge research and development thing. All right, that's where like all the nerdy people want to go. But let's look at the map. Just autistic people in the chat, to be honest. This is a map. So NEOM goes from just below this city, Haqqan. It goes kind of across. It actually goes like up, so it basically goes to the border. It goes down towards Tabuk and goes all the way down to along this line. See the Prince bin Mohammed bin Salman Nature Reserve. encompasses all of this. This is the Red Sea. All right, then the Red Sea, as it goes up, it splits into the Gulf of Aqaba, it splits into the Gulf of Suez, and this is the Suez Canal here. Also, fun fact, I found out this Sinai Peninsula, which is part of Egypt, is considered part of Asia. So Egypt is actually in Africa and in Asia. I didn't know that before. So 13% of world trade passes through the Suez Canal, and it goes down here or up there, whatever. And currently, Yamba, which is all the way down here. Remember, NEOM ends up here. Yamba is the second largest port in the whole of the Middle East, with the largest being in UAE. And so Oxagon is going to be connected to, because one of its major functions is to be a port, it's going to be connected to Yamba. In fact, the port right now is this place, Dubai or something, I don't know, which has been renamed the port of NEOM now. And it's part of where Oxagon is going to be. Now let's look at how big NEOM really is. Okay, so I said 2,600 square kilometers approximately. Let's take a look at a country. Let's take a look. So you see this, just remember as this shape is from this line down to here, across here, roughly, okay? Then you go to Kuwait. It's bigger than the whole of Kuwait. Kuwait is 18,000 square kilometers. It's way bigger than Bahrain. I mean, Bahrain is about the third the size of Riyadh, so it's tiny. It's also bigger than Qatar. It's about double the size. And in terms of the UAE, it's about one third the size of the UAE. It's also the same size as like Jordan. But then, I'll give you some European examples. So if you go like on the website, they'll tell you the area and they'll advertise it as, wait for it, the size of Belgium. But I don't know where Belgium is. It's around here
It's
somewhere.
right there. Brussels is part of Belgium. That's the borders.
Yeah, go up a little bit. Yeah,
Brussels, Antwerp, Ghent. This is all part of Belgium.
Okay. Why doesn't it? Oh, it's the size of Belgium. Okay. It's also bigger than Wales. Okay, so like
Wales
it's
is tiny.
huge,
It's huge. What do you mean?
brother. Wales is a whole entire country. This
5
is one
hours to get
country.
from one end to end.
Wales is not a country, bro.
Yeah, there's some other stuff I wanted to talk about, but I completely forgot. Let's talk about the nature though. Okay, so 95% is going to be nature reserve, which is part of actually a bigger initiative called the Saudi Green Initiative, which is, you know, reintroducing wildlife, re-greening,
Sorry, I just saw كيف حالة عمار.
Sorry,
never mind. Just a city I saw.
I'm talking, okay?
No, it's a city. Look, it's a city right there. It says حالة عمار.
It's even worse.
Where?
Right, on the northern line of NEOM, on the top right corner.
So we're burying him.
It's in
What?
Saudi as well. Cool.
You should put it on
This is,
satellite view.
Sorry, continue.
This is
Put it on
Sharm
satellite
el-Sheikh,
view.
by the way. Satellite view. How do I do that in here? This?
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. But now you can't see the borders as well. But it doesn't matter in this case. Actually, it does, because of my next point. So 95% is of the land and sea, by the way, is a nature reserve, which is part of a bigger Saudi Green Initiative, which is for the whole country, which you may have seen like in Riyadh, you know, when you're going on the roads, they have all those trees, and they'll just have this random sign, which is probably worn out and everything. And you can see, if you read it, it says Saudi Green Initiative. So it's a huge initiative, but part of that initiative is actually 30% of the whole entire country, the whole of Saudi Arabia is going to be dedicated to nature. It's going to be a nature reserve. And you can see that, for example, here, Prince Mohammed bin Salman Nature Reserve, which is about the size of NEOM. King Salman Nature Reserve, which is like gigantic, all right? Then you have more, and these are going to get bigger. Only they're going to get bigger, they're going to get better, right? Because right now, a lot of them are desert. But if you talk about NEOM, what they've done so far is recently they released some Arabian ox into the wildlife, which is the first time they've ever been in the wild in the past 100 years, right? Arabian ox, it's just Arabian oryx, okay, whatever, same thing. So these things. There's also the Arabian ibex, something like that.
Oh,
These
I love
things.
those. I'm gonna try it.
What did you say? You want to try them?
Yeah, they look tasty.
They're meant to be
Go
reserved,
hunting in
not
20 years'
preserved
time.
for you to
Listen,
eat.
you know, we can go hunting. Maybe if they reintroduce cheetahs and stuff
Astaghfirullah.
into the wild, we can get some cheetahs, train them to hunt. That'd be awesome.
I don't think you know what a reserve is. So I'm gonna say that for out there.
Well, but in those
Another-
you get hunting reserve, yeah. By then.
I don't think I know what a reserve is.
It's protected nature, but not only are they protecting, they're bringing back the nature. Okay, they're bringing back the wildlife. They're reinstating these habitats that used to exist in the past. All right, and also the tourism is going to be regenerative tourism. It's not tourism that is destructive to the environment. It's tourism that is constructive to the
See
environment.
it, Ollie? So not hunting.
Yeah, Tully. No hunting.
In South Africa, they have tourism based on hunting, and it's very efficient and very well.
No, it's very
organized, and
illegal.
it actually helps to improve the
It's
wild.
actually most of it is fully illegal. They do canned hunting.
You're illegal.
It's legal. It's legal. They have legal ways of doing it.
They have legal ways, and that's extremely expensive, and it takes a very long time. And that's not what people do. Most people do illegal canned hunting.
Real.
That's how they get all their photos online and stuff.
All right, if you say so.
I'm telling you.
Probably, do you want to do that next year then?
No,
Go.
shutting this down. Not doing this on my watch. If you look into the details of the real wildlifing, which again, there's loads of detail. Now I'm just giving you that surface level, but they're doing it in phases, and their first phase is they're kind of doing it all at the same time, right, in parallel. So first, there was a guy who was talking about like they're gonna get some of the weeds. They want the weeds to grow back in the desert because that helps keep the sand from flying. Then they get these little shrubs, which not only provide shelter to these small mammals, which are actually really important to the food chain, but also they provide obviously grazing. And also grazing right now is a huge problem because it eats away all the greenery. There's loads of unsustainable grazing and too much. Like there's too much just camels and goats and stuff like that. They're going to do stuff to try and control that, get the grazing under control so it's not so random, right? So it's a more sustainable way of grazing. So even in the past they used to do it. They used to graze a field to a certain extent, then they would move on, not destroy the whole entire field, right? Which is kind of currently what's happening. Okay, let's talk about the line actually a little bit more, because I remembered something about the line. Then I've got to go on to the sectors. I want to go back to this picture. Might as well just share my whole screen. Yeah. So you see this picture? Oh yeah, here's some of the pictures. You have these things, then you have these things, and then you have these things. One of them, there are 3 different types of things, and I can't remember their names though.
Animals.
Yeah.
Not just
Talk about the line. So this line is where most of the population of NEOM is going to live, like 99.9999%. Okay. And it's going to have a population of 9 million. Yeah, I'm literally going to get to that. The line. So just remember, it's going to have a population of 9 million. And the population of London is 9 million. The line is going to have an area of 34 square kilometers. Does anyone want to guess the area of London?
50.
as big as NEOM.
NEOM as a whole is 2,600 square kilometers. The line itself, 34 square kilometers. London.
I mean, are you talking about Greater London or just London?
The whole thing. So Greater London. Because that's the whole population of London.
I don't know.
12,
12.
16.
I'd say it's at least minimum 10 times, but probably closer to 25, 30 times.
It is
153.
way more than 10 times. So the line is 34 square kilometers with a population of 9 million. London, population of 9 million, and it's got an area of 1,600 square kilometers,
Okay.
right, which is similar to the Alp. And it just goes to show you just how unsustainable the current cities we have now are. Also, if you talk a bit more about the line, right, you are from any point within the line. Imagine you're in this city. Say like when we're Riyadh and we want to go out to the desert, right? Recently, or as we're getting closer to the present, it's been more difficult to go to the desert and enjoy the experience so much, right? First of all, the desert's further because the city's expanded. It's called urban sprawl. Then also, NEOM is a city, which is changing the definition of a city. So it's actually, in our current terms, you'd say NEOM is a region and the line is a city. But then they also say NEOM is a city, then the line is a region within NEOM, but the line is a city. Okay, so it's a bit strange.
Like Greater London and so on, yeah.
No, but
in a modern term, future term.
sure. I mean, I'd say a more accurate way is say NEOM is a region, the whole entire region. Then it's made up of smaller regions, which the line is a smaller region, it's a city in this case. Oxygen is a city in this case. Cinderella is not a city, it's just a bunch of islands. These other places are just resorts, so they're not necessarily all cities, right?
Ooh, I think my work involves Cinderella.
Sally, you have to tell me all about it.
It's quite boring actually right now. Never mind.
Never say it's boring, okay?
I mean, it's not boring, but when you say tell me all about it,
Okay.
there's not that much to actually tell about it. It's very. I can explain it in like 5 minutes or less.
Wow, Sally explained something in 5 minutes. Let me finish my point. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So right now, when you go, say Riyadh, so the desert is further, and also when you get to the desert, you like maybe you can't see the stars so much because there's all the lights from the city. You leave the city, but the city doesn't leave you. Okay. Now imagine the line. Line is a thin strip. You can step out from either side of the line, like I don't know, it probably takes you 2 minutes or something. You step out and you're immediately in this nature reserve, right? Where you have all this wildlife, and where the city is hidden because it's built in that certain type of casing where it kind of blends in with the environment. The city is hidden. The pollution from the city, in terms of light pollution and stuff, is hidden. So you go from city right here, you take one step out, you're smack bang in the best piece of nature you can imagine. Okay, that's like awesome. And then if you talk about transport within line, so a lot of people right now, they know about there's meant to be some train, some high-speed train, maybe underneath that can take from the bottom. That's like a theory or a plan at this point. It's not set in stone. They don't know exactly what kind of transportation they have. They may have no cars. They may have self-driving cars. They may have automatic, electric cars. They may have no cars. They may have trains. They tested out these passenger drones things, right? Is that. Then if you talk about the sectors, I don't have a picture of it. So NEOM is made up of 16 sectors, or you can call them economies. Right, that's not useful. That's not useful. Okay.
Zoom in.
No, it's gonna be all blurry. Okay. Yes, here. 16 sectors or economies. Each one you can go into so much detail, but first, let me explain these 16 economies. There, you can put them into 3 categories. Either they are just conventional sectors / economies that, you know, every city place just needs, or they are sectors that Saudi as a whole, the government has identified there's a leakage. It's creating a leakage in the economy. So they're trying to bring it like up to standard. Or there are sectors where the government has identified that they can be a leader in, and that's why they're focusing on it. Which ones are which? I don't know. And then if we talked about energy, energy is really cool. So NEOM, if you go back to this picture, it's positioned very, very, very well. There are some super high speeds that come northwest at night, and there's some great sun that they get. So NEOM's actually going to be fully energy sustained on renewable energy from itself. But not only is it going to be fully on its own energy, it's also going to make so much renewable energy that it's going to export renewable energy. Okay, and they're going to do this. The two big means is wind and sun solar panels. And actually, yes, it's so cool because they're actually going to make those solar panels from the sand within that desert. And then they, with that sand, they use the solar panels to get the sun that is in the desert. And the one guy, he was talking about this, and he was like, so the sun and the sand, which in olden times were the biggest obstacles for living in the desert, is now going to become the biggest fuels for living in the desert, right? And also talking about the sun, right now, if you look globally, annually the energy that is used, or yeah, all the energy usage globally is equivalent to just 2 minutes of the sun's energy. So Saudi, you had oil and gas, which was like huge, untapped for hundreds, thousands, billions of years energy, right? Then they tapped into that. And now you can say, oh, oil and gas, maybe it's dying. Well, it doesn't matter because now they have the sun, which is like the next biggest, hugest untapped energy thing. Okay, it's gonna be cool. That's energy. Also, does anyone know what blue hydrogen and green hydrogen is? Does anyone want to guess? Because these are terms that when you look at anything about energy, they get thrown about a lot. And there's going to be a lot of blue hydrogen and green hydrogen in NEOM.
Blue hydrogen, is that hydrogen generated from non-renewable sources, and green hydrogen is hydrogen generated from completely renewable sources. So, or the other way around.
You've almost got it the other way around. So you have fossil fuels, which is oils and natural gas, and you have renewable energies, which is wind, sun, and water, right? Solar, yeah, whatever, wind, sun, and water. Okay. Blue hydrogen is basically this process to do with water, where they just have water and they'll separate the hydrogen from the oxygen and they get energy that way. It's extremely clean. Green hydrogen is just another way of extracting natural gas, which they already do, but it's a different method of extracting it so that the carbon emissions are captured and stored, which makes it more green and environmentally friendly. Let's look at the other sectors. Water is so cool. So a lot of this water and energy is all focused in oxygen, by the way. Water, Ibi should be interested in it. They're doing like huge desalination thingies. I don't really know about it. Mobility, you have the whole train thingy, the drone thingies, the cars thingies. They have Sear, the whole entire company. You know, it's connected to NEOM in terms of business, but not necessarily in terms of like the region or something. Biotech, I don't know anything about it. Food is so cool, okay, because they're doing this, they're changing the way you do agriculture, and basically they're trying to get agriculture that is as least dependent on water as possible. And then also they're going to again export food from here. That's their plan. So it's not only to become self-sustainable in terms of food, it's also to actually export food. And it's called, they have something called regenerative aquaculture. So when you're doing farming the fish and all that stuff, fishing the fish, so instead of just killing off all the fish you're fishing lets the fish make more fish, and so you can fish for more fish. Manufacturing media, media's like cool. If you're into that stuff, which you're not, but like still cool. Okay, there's loads of movies being filmed there. Like they say, it's the new Hollywood. And some other stuff. In fact, as we're currently speaking, there are a bunch of rappers in Alola, which is not NEOM, doing some albums. I want to talk about Alola, by the way. Who knows where Alola is, Dolly? And is Alola part of NEOM?
It's not part of NEOM, no. It's north of
You just said
between Tabuk and Medina, like almost halfway.
See on the map.
Yeah. Where is that? I can't actually find it.
Move your mouse down a bit.
It says Hegra.
Yeah, move your mouse
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
Basically Alola.
There's Alola, and then there's Alola region, which also the region of Alola is around 18,000 square kilometers. So it's also like really, really big. Just so you know. But yeah, not part of it. Tourism, cool story. Design and construction. Okay, so this was one of my topics that I was initially going to do my presentation on because it was like so cool. But then I was looking into it, and then I found all this other cool stuff, and I was like, oh gosh, I got to talk about all this cool stuff, and then I just spoke about nothing basically. Construction Day is a huge focus on modular construction. Modular construction is like, I mean, we know as, you know, you're in a factory and you make these Lego pieces, and then with these Lego pieces, you can build anything. But there's a reason modular construction hasn't been very popular. Even now, it's still not popular. One of these things is, first of all, you don't necessarily want to build a whole city that is just made of these Lego pieces, right? It's a bit boring. But here you have a special advantage. They're building a whole entire city. So they can, and the whole city is made of these like 5-minute districts kind of thing, where you have everything within 5 minutes. And so when you're building a whole city in one go, all of a sudden you have that advantage where you can use this modular construction kind of thing. That was really bad. But imagine your car. When you went to buy a car, what happened was a whole bunch of people came to your house. They set up a factory in your house, and they built your car right there. And for each person that ordered, they went to their house, built a factory, constructed the car right outside the house or something, right? That's like really, really bad. Instead, what cars do, they have one central factory and they churn out these loads and loads and loads of cars, right? And then just sell them. So that's construction right now, is like they're coming to your house and building the car. The future of construction is that it will be more centralized in one place, right? And you just turn out loads of this construction. There's a lot more detail to it, but whatever. Then there's all of this stuff. Education is really cool, MISC, okay, but I'm not going to talk about that because there's so much cool stuff and I don't know all the cool stuff yet. But yeah. And with that is the end of the presentation.